Hi, I'm Ann Salisbury, and you can find me at gointuition.com, or our school is at transpersonalhypnotherapy.com. And today I'm slideless, so I am here to share the 3 secrets for after-death communication. And basically you may ask, how can I possibly know these secrets? And I've been in private practice since 1987, seeing clients as a clairvoyant, a medium, psychotherapist, and intuitive business consultant. And I've helped people communicate with those on the other side for emotional healing and transformation. That's what interests me the most. When I was a child, I experienced a lot that other people around me didn't seem to see. And when I would go upstairs at night to bed, I would have to pass the landing and then go up to my bedroom. And every night I did this, I would sense an energy there that was a woman staring out the back window to the park behind our house. And that freaked me out. So I asked my mother, what about this woman who is standing on our landing? And she said, what woman? So I decided, okay, either I'm strange or they're strange, but something's not working here, so I'm just going to be quiet. So I did my best to push it down and fit in, but as you know, you can't hold a ball under the water very long. It will bounce back up. So I ended up continuing then later to meditate and access those on the other side. And what I realized was it was so important, your belief system, what you believe, right? So when I was a child, I believed I sensed this energy. This was scary to me, but I didn't know how to look at it. I questioned myself, I doubted myself. But when I got older, the people at the end of our block, they took the cannonball from the back of their yard, they found, and they put it on a pedestal. And the city started putting up beautiful signs around our neighborhood and at the park, saying this was a Civil War battlefield. So then I put 2 and 2 together. The woman I was seeing on the landing was most likely, it felt like, somebody who was waiting for a loved one to return home who had not returned home. So you could say that my belief was strengthened by the fact that other people had said, okay, this was an area of activity that was not very fun, and that woman, I couldn't get her to talk to me, I couldn't get her to turn around no matter what I did. So there was a reason for her fixation. So I looked at that. Then, as the years went on and I opened my practice, I saw a lot of people whose beliefs completely affected how they would see or access those on the other side. So, for example, a couple of years ago, I had a client who really, really wanted to believe that she could contact the other side. So she booked a hotel room at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, the site of Stephen King's book, The Shining. Have any of you been there? Yeah, so you know. Okay. So she went to the midnight ghost walk. She really wanted to have an experience. And she called me after that and she said, it's terrible. I thought I could have an experience, but I did not see a ghost, an apparition, during that ghost walk, so I think I'm just not able to do it. And I said, well, tell me about your experience staying at the hotel. What was that like? It was terrible. The hotel, I heard footsteps up and down the hall all night long, kept me up. And then the lights went on and off. She's like, that hotel. I said, Tina, I'm calling her Tina. Tina, maybe, what do you think if those footsteps were actually you connecting with somebody on the other side? She's like, what about the electricity? People on the other side, they're able to affect the electricity a lot. She's like, wow, really? I had an experience. It wasn't a waste of my time. And it's like, yeah, you did, great. So she bolstered her belief in being able to communicate. So then she said, you know, I'm thinking back. And I said, what? She's like, I got this phone call from my mother recently. I said, I thought your mother was dead. She's like, yeah, she's dead. But I got this phone call. So help me understand. And she said, well, the phone rang, and I was thinking I was crazy. It must have been me calling my mother's phone number. But I went back and checked, and it was an incoming call. And when I hit redial, it went and said, you know, this line has been disconnected. So she's like, so help me understand. I'm going crazy. I wanted to talk to my mother. Do you think that could possibly be my mother trying to contact me? I'm like, of course. Electricity is easy for them, right? So the second secret is contact, okay? So you can contact them, and they can contact you. You just have to be willing to look for the signs. So you could say, Tina thought that she was just nuts and, you know, the phone call, whatever. But when she reflected after she had more belief, then she realized, oh my gosh, my mother was trying to contact me. Because at that point, she was in a lot of grief, and her mother was there to support her, okay? So then on the other side of contact, you can request contact. And so what Tina did was she's like, I really, really, really want to talk to my mother more now that I'm feeling better about myself. How can I do this? I think what I'm going to do is go to the cemetery where her plot is. So she went with her sister. They took a picture. When they looked at the photo, they saw this beautiful light coming in from nowhere land over on top of the grave. And then another photo, there was a beautiful orb there. And she's like, oh my gosh, do you think this could be real? And it's like, yes, this is real. That light, because we photographed them too, we photographed orbs, that was contact. That was her mother wanting her to know it's okay. So that's the second secret or key element to connecting with the other side. The third is help, okay? So a lot of people come saying, I would like to talk to my mother, let's say, on the other side, because I understand that I have a bunch of guides. I'm supposed to have guides. So why isn't my mother kicking in and being my guide now? Or why aren't they contacting me? So a couple of years ago, had a client who came saying, my daughter just died. Well, she died 2 years ago. And the issue is that I really want to talk to my daughter. And I am feeling like something's wrong with me because my daughter has not contacted me. When she was alive, we talked all the time about spirituality. Excuse me. And I don't understand, something's wrong. So I talked to her daughter, we'll call her Sue, the daughter, and I said, you know, show me where you are, what's happening. And Sue showed me this image of floating over like a freeway, a little freeway. And so I asked her mother, we'll call her Sally, Sally, this is what she's showing me. How does that make sense for you? And she said, well, she died in a car accident. I said, okay, well, when I look at her, she doesn't know she's dead. So there's a reason she has not contacted you. So would you like to help her wake up a little bit on the other side? And Sally's like, yes. So we worked with her daughter. We allowed her to kind of realize, okay, you're dead, and here you can contact your mom like this. And by the end of the session, they were communicating, life was good. And so you could say that Sally helped her daughter on the other side by waking up, by recognizing her situation and that she could alter it. And then by Sue saying to her mom, "Mom, I'm okay. I'm sorry I didn't contact you the last 2 years. I didn't realize I was dead, basically. So how would I know to tell you something? I was just in stasis." Then there was another client had recently who, we'll call her Patricia. She wanted to talk to a friend who had died after a long-term illness. All she wanted to know was, is he okay? When I checked in with him, he was just floating in the void. You could see it like deep darkness. And it had the feeling to me that he had created this reality through his beliefs. So I said, "Patricia, do you think your friend Bill might have been an atheist? Do you know anything about his religious beliefs? And not that it matters, but he has created a void for himself, which means he didn't have a preconceived notion of what he wanted to create, so he created this." She's like, "Yes." He was cantankerous. He was only going to talk, believe in what he believed himself. Nobody was going to tell him what to do. I said, "Great. Well, would you like to help Bill? Because he's just kind of hovering there, and he might want to know he has some options." So she said, "Yes." So we mentioned to Bill, "Hey, Bill, I wonder if you were to look around you, if you might see any light anywhere. Could there possibly be some?" And he goes, "Yeah, there is some up there." And then we said, "Okay, Bill, so you have the option. You can stay in this darkness, or you can alter it a little bit if you want to by bringing in some more light." So he decided he'd bring in some light. Then we said, "Okay, Bill, what else do you want to do? This is your reality. You get to design it. What do you want?" So he brought in some trees. He brought in some grass. He brought in a comfortable chair. He wanted to sit down. And then he was able to chat. So then he was able to talk to his friend. And there was communication, there was healing, and it was wonderful. So basically, what I've found over the years is if you can concentrate on these three things, so that is belief. If you can look at your beliefs, like have a notebook by your bed and write down, "Tonight I would like to talk to myself, my higher wisdom, about my beliefs. I would like to examine them." And let your dreams bring you some information about you. Then you can also write down, "I'd like to talk to my loved one, my mom, whatever, and I'd have this specific question." So you write down, "I would like to know what my mom is doing on the other side right now." And then let your dream bring it to you. One drawback can be is if you think that by you writing it that day, that they are going to respond that night. They may not. They may be busy. Because remember the client Tina, her mom literally picked up the phone and called her, but Tina didn't know to answer. Tina thought it was a freaky thing. So Tina didn't answer. Well, a lot of times when you call to the other side, they can be busy too. Sometimes they'll pick up and answer. Sometimes they'll answer you next week, next month, next year, whatever, but you just have to believe in yourself that it's possible and set that up. So, does this make sense to you all? Because if you have the belief and if you know that contact is possible from them to you, from you to them, and that you can help them on the other side, and they can help you, then your life can be so much richer. And I'm in this business because I love seeing people transform, and when they do, their lives, it's like a bigger community, you could say. It's not just those of us sitting in this room that are in physical bodies. We have such a huge community to play with, and it's a wonderful thing. Now, one caveat is when you are dialing your loved one, you want to make sure you dial the right number, right? So in other words, you don't want to just say, "Hey, I'm dialing the ethers to talk to whoever's out there." Because if you've got, Uncle Jack, and you want to talk to Uncle Jack, but you're like, Jack or any Jack, I'll talk to any Jack. Any Jack could be the guy who's now living at the federal penitentiary, or who used to live there and now is on the other side. You may not want to talk to him. So you want to be specific, and then you want to hold yourself in love, and that's what I found to work really well. So, any questions? Yes.
Good question. How do you reconcile these 3 steps with religious beliefs?
So, as you saw, religious beliefs basically structure what your reality is like, right? So, when you, so this is my experience, and somebody who is religious, super, super religious, will probably not call me unless they're super desperate. But I have still had people who are quite religious be fine, because if they can see how their beliefs affect their reality, and if they only believe that you go to heaven, you play a harp, and that's that, then they may not be as open to hearing, right, the options on the other side, or that you can create your options. So their beliefs are going to totally affect it. But then if they're hurting and they want to connect, you see, they're more motivated to make some shifts in how they see the world.
Thank you for your talk. You mentioned physical manifestations, and you make it sound like it's pretty easy. If that's the case, why can't they simply write us a letter? Or why can't they use Morse code with the lights, turning them on and off? Why is the communication so foggy? Why can't it be made more clear if they can physically manifest what's happening on this side? I've never quite understood that.
That's
and
a
I
great
know Gary
question.
Schwartz is working on something called a cell phone, where he uses some type of lighting. You're probably familiar with that, but I've never understood that.
Great question. So it is kind of like in this world, you've got some people who are excellent at mathematics and some people who are excellent at art, right? So you, for example, when my mother died, she, a couple of days later, she came to me and woke me up, and she got in my face and she said, "Are you in there?" And she scared the bejesus out of me. And I had made an agreement with her before she left to communicate with her on the other side, and I expected her to recuperate for a while, but I did not expect this. So when she came at me like that, she was using all the energy she had to express to me. Now, my belief was open. I was waiting and willing to see her. She knew she wanted to do this, so there was motivation and intention on both sides. But it was a challenge for her. After that, she rang the doorbell. She put off our smoke alarms. She did a variety of things, perfume in the air. But it takes, let's say the person on the other side, if they don't know that they can contact you, a lot of them are walking in a fog. And so they're not motivated to do it. Some ghosts are motivated because they're up to no good. But your loved one, sometimes they're so subtle, like it can be a thought. It can be just like a wisp of a thought through your mind. And you're thinking, I wonder why I had that thought. That's so weird. That's your loved one, so you want to look for the subtle signs. Yes?
Thank you, Anne, for your sharing your methodology, and I look forward to reading your book. I just want to preface what I have to say by stating that I am convinced of survival. I've been for many, many years and believe in spirit communication. I think that these types of unmediated experiences are the strongest ones, are often the most evidential, because you don't have to sort out what the media may or may not have known and how the communication may have been contaminated. And going back to Julie's presentation about the importance of language and how we describe events in this field and the fact that there's energy and vibration and all this terminology that has very different meanings, I would just caution that in my experience of studying physical phenomena over the past 25 years, I think the relationship between spirit and these physical effects is pretty tenuous in terms of cause and effect. And I don't think that, the problem is we don't have the language, and often once people buy into the fact that there is survival, there is life after death and spirit communication, they jump to the conclusion that it's spirit that's actually creating those physical effects, when the language, I think, again, and we really lack the language should be more that spirit is taking advantage of circumstances where human living beings are able to provide the energy, as in spiritualist circles, or the creation of a poltergeist effect, or fill up the imaginary ghost. So that's my cautionary note, is that the language, I think, we just don't have the language, but I have not seen anything that suggests that it is actually spirit that is creating the phone to ring, or the perfume, or tables to move, or ectoplasm. It is a human energy, in my opinion.
That's great. I'm not a scientist, so I just help people heal emotionally. I do know, though, that when I gave a talk about a year and a half ago, and the gentleman in the audience was wanting to talk to his beloved wife who had died, and he said, she brings me dimes to know that she's okay. And he said they'd appear on the street, they appear wherever. So you could say, oh yeah, he's just seeing those dimes, it's meaningless, he's just putting meaning to it. But after that talk, within minutes, I walked out of the room and a dime fell from the ethers, hit my toe, and clinked on this pavement in front of me. And I'm like, holy cow, I've never been paid by spirit before. This is pretty cool. And so then I asked, and she said, I just wanted you to know how important it was for me that you talked to my husband and helped him today. So I got that message intuitively. You could take it however you like, but for me, I thought that was pretty cool. And so I'm not the scientist, so that's up to others to research.
I'm not a scientist either, but that experience being so direct, again, I think it's probably a group human effect that's causing these strange manifestations.
Could be a variety of things.
I believe in the manifestations. I don't see that spirit has an energy that's able to manifest in this physical world.
Thank you.
I wish I did. It would be easier.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for your talk. I want to ask a few questions. I've wondered if the recently departed have kind of a stronger resonance than someone who, say, has been dead for perhaps a decade or longer, something like that. It's something that I felt like I may have noticed when I've attempted to communicate with recently departed loved ones, that it seems like the signal is stronger. But
Right.
I haven't found any information on that literature. And the second part of my question was, do you recommend any tools of any kind? For example, automatic writing or using boards of any kind like that? Would you advise to use those or not? Or have any input in using those if you do?
Okay. So I agree, those who are more recently departed, depending upon the situation, again, remember there was that one client who had the friend who or daughter who didn't even know she was dead yet, right? So then they go through kind of a recuperation phase on the other side. So if they're involved in that, it may not be as direct a communication for a while. But I would say, yes, you find the energy dissipates over time, particularly if, let's say, they've taken their energy and incarnated into another physical body or created another physical experience for themselves. So they're less available on the other side. I found that. As for tools, we've written 3 books that are at the back. There's some tools in the back, some exercises. I highly recommend dream work, because if you can write a question and then ask for the dream, and then the next morning write it down, then they know, oh, he's open to receiving, right? So then you've opened the communication. But again, the more you do it, I wouldn't recommend Ouija boards or things, because again, then you're opening up to God knows what, and you want to keep it specific and held in love. That's my experience. Great.
Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you. And I'll be at the back, at the table at break for anybody who has any other questions. I'm happy to answer them.